Hello and welcome back to our How to Paint series. We're continuing on with our Gravis Captain in Gravis Armour, whichever way you prefer to say it. And before we do anything, we're just going to start with a little bit of cleanup. We are going back to our classic Caliban green, which we've been using for most of this model actually. And I've actually got a brand new brush today. I figured it would be nice to kind of use the actual Citadel brand starter brush. I feel like that's kind of what the majority of people first starting out are going to get. I actually just got this with the Tyrannid paint and model kind of starter pack thing. It's going to be what our next videos are about. I'll showcase it more there, but we're just going to be using this to do a little bit of our cleanup work, just where we spilled a little bit of our, mostly the gold around. And it shouldn't be too much, but it is kind of important to get that overall really nice kind of finished look. And today we're going to be doing a couple of washes, a little bit of highlighting as well, just all the kind of final touches we need to make this model really pop, especially, you know, given that it's a character of such a high rank. You kind of want it to stand out on the battlefield, right? Or on your display shelf, whichever one you kind of plan on using. And we're going to get into all those little nooks and crannies we usually forget, and just do one little pass over. The only issue I have with this model is the kind of ribbons are really hard to see where they kind of start and end. So I'm going to do my best to clean those up a little, but they're really difficult to kind of get a good grasp on, at least in my personal opinion. And we'll do one last little brush over the top there. It's not perfect, but it'll kind of be, you know, close enough for what we want here. Perfect. Just do one quick little check here. And I knew there was going to be a little bit we missed in the back. Touch that up as best we can. And now we're going to be moving on. I think that's pretty much all we need our Caliban green for now at least. We'll put it in good faith. And we're going to do a little bit more of our, if I can find it. Oh no, I thought I was prepared. Here we are. Our Xandri dust. Actually, this is flayed one flesh. That's fine. I'm not sure where my Xandri dust went, but this will make a good substitute. It'll give us kind of a little bit of a color change on our cape, so it's not all just one static color. And let's get enough on here it's actually going to stick on our brush. That would be nice. And we just want to go into kind of all the little spots that we didn't really miss, we just kind of didn't touch it up as well as I really wanted to. And it's going to dry and look way different than it is now, but that's okay. Right now it looks kind of splotchy, and that's kind of in part to our paint being a little bit too thin, but it does act as kind of a glaze. So hopefully this will kind of give us closer to the effect we want. And this will actually help us with our highlighting a little bit. We will be going back over this with, I think, Agrax Earthshade is what I have. Of course, it's kind of the classic for my first choice. Sometimes non-oil, but usually it's Agrax. Just kind of my personal favorite now. Actually, ever since I started doing these videos, I used to really be a big proponent of non-oil, but now I'm kind of switching teams a little bit, unfortunately. Nothing against non-oil though. We still use it somewhat often, and it does have its uses, specifically using like it on metal. It kind of helps give like a more shiny kind of feeling. Agrax Earthshade just kind of looks a little bit more glossy when it's dried. And you know, that has ups and downs. Sometimes you don't really want that though. Easy way to fix that is just to put a nice matte varnish over everything. And we're gonna, while this is drying, I just don't want it pulling up too much. We're just gonna slide it down a little bit in those cracks and crevices just to kind of give us a little bit of kind of the, you know, idea of highlights and recesses. Perfect. A little bit of a non-static color there now. I think I'm kind of satisfied with that. And we're going to be moving on to our dry brushing while we let that dry. I would just go straight into our wash, but I don't want to ruin that paint while it's sitting there drying. So I'll get my paper towel here. I've been using the same one for almost all these videos now, so it looks a little in need of replacement, but that's fine. It's perfect for what we want. And if I could find my dry brush. There we are. I managed to find it finally. Unfortunately, this video is probably going to be full of cuts because I'm not properly prepared as much as I thought I was. It's okay though. We are going to be busting open our Nurgling Green. Classic highlighting color for our Caliban here. At least in my opinion. Maybe you're using something different. Normally I wouldn't go for something so drastically lighter, but it's kind of the, I think, only option there really is in terms of the Citadel line. I know their like UK version has a little bit of a different stock, but for the US portion of their website, that's kind of all they had. So we're gonna roll with it. We'll make it work. And instead of doing any edge highlighting, I'm kind of just imagining there's a light source kind of in front of our model. And I want to kind of highlight, you know, based off of that. So I won't be doing, you know, every part of him. I'll just be kind of doing it piecemeal here, imagining, you know, where our light is actually hitting. Because it's not going to light up the entire thing, right? You're going to have little nooks and crannies and recesses that aren't getting touched by any light whatsoever. And it's a little bit hard to kind of imagine until we get to the finished product here. But bear with me, and you know, hopefully our outcome is going to look somewhat decent. Just doing kind of the top of the arm here. And if we can get back in focus, I do want to also do the top of the backpack. Power pack, backpack, I'm not really sure what they technically are called. Lore-wise, I know they are meant to give the Space Marine actual power for the armor, at least in the newer models, right? I don't know how well that holds up in the lore the further back you go, but we'll kind of play it as it lies. And we're going to do a little bit more work on kind of the shoulder and the hand as well if we can. Again, just everything in the front here. He's not going to have any lighting in the back hitting him, but it will kind of wrap around a little bit to these shadows, so we want to do just a little bit of touch-up, kind of in some of these raised up areas if we can. And it's kind of very gradual, so it might be hard to see when we first apply this here, but hopefully once we're finished, it'll look very nice. And I want to focus a lot on getting this helmet that's very much like at the forefront of our model. It's going to be getting probably the most light if you think about it. And same thing with that gorget, I'm not sure if I announced that. Either way, it's going to be getting a ton of light as well. So we really want to shade to kind of reflect that. Perfect, and we'll touch up this power pack just a little bit more. And then we'll be just about done with this. Unfortunately, I don't really have anything to dry brush our cape with. Maybe rack white. Maybe we can do a little bit of work on that. You know what? Let's try that. Right? We got nothing to lose here. If it looks horrible, it's fine. We'll just go back over it. I am going to be using a much bigger brush for that, however. I don't really want it being so kind of, I don't know the word. Either way, we'll kind of walk through it as I try to explain it here. Like centered, right? I'm totally drawing a blank on what word I'm trying to think of, but that's fine. We'll just do it, and I'll explain it as we go. So we're using a bigger brush. I'm getting our rack white on it. Not too much. And the nice thing about having a dirty paper towel with all your paints already on it is white is very easy to show up now. And we can get it kind of to that nice amount that we want. And just kind of going in very broad strokes here. I just want to get all of the kind of raised areas. And it might not look perfect, but that's going to be okay because we are I can't really get underneath, unfortunately. We will be going back over this with our Agrax Earthshade, and that'll be helping kind of mute a lot of these, highlighted brighter colors and kind of help it blend a little bit more into one solid unified thing. And we're just going to focus a little bit more on the bottom of this cape here. For this, we're just going to kind of imagine that the light is kind of reflecting off the wall behind him or something, right? And is, adding to the highlight effect here. Perfect. Now we're going to moving on to our wash. As I've said probably 6 times already, Agrax Earthshade. Unfortunately, I did spill it a little bit in one of our last episodes, so it's a little bit more difficult to open. It actually dried like that. But we're going to be going in with a rather large size brush, and I just want to be applying this kind of all over the cape. And I don't want it pulling up too much, so I'm just very quickly doing a nice little pass over of all of these bits we can. Trying to get especially in that little top corner there that I can't reach very well. And we'll get a little bit more, and we'll even do this kind of top shoulder sash thing. And if we can, we'll do the underside of the cape as well. Perfect. And once that dries, we might go over it one more time, but for the most part, it's actually starting to look pretty decent. The blending isn't perfect, but from sitting somewhere on the table, and you're 3 feet above it or whatever, standing, it's going to be much nicer of kind of a gradual thing. So don't worry about it looking too perfect, especially if you're just kind of focusing on the tabletop. But I do want to go in with our small brush again, and I kind of forgot a couple of tiny little details that I want to rectify here. All right. We're going to be going in with our corn red and possibly a little bit of a touch up with our gold as well. I just want to hit, there's these little kind of like ropes on the front of his outfit that I really want to hit. I'm sure there's a proper name for it. I know it's like a military term, but I don't really know it, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. And it's just these little ropes here above that little relic item he has. I just want to do the best I can to very lightly kind of paint over that without messing up our dry brushing at all. And I'm getting a little bit messy, but that should be fine. I should have thought about this in the first place, but unfortunately I didn't really see it until it was too late, so it's fine. We'll play it as it lies. All right. And let's do, I can't really see, but we'll touch up a little bit back there. Perfect. Once that dries, we will go back over and clean up a little bit. And actually, if I get this brush nice and clean, I might be able to get it while it's still drying. We'll try. We'll definitely try. I just want this little piece right there. Dry our brush off a little bit and go right back in. Excellent. It's not perfect, but it's definitely not as bad as it was a second ago. And now it just kind of looks like it's all muddled and blended in, right? So definitely much better than just having a big red stain where your green should be. So there's a little bit of a pro tip for you. If you mess up, if you're quick enough, you can usually take it off before it has time to dry. And kind of looking at what we have left, there isn't really a whole lot. Basically, I just want to get these fuel lines on the back here. I think that's what it is, at least. I'm not 100%. And then there's one kind of attached to this servo skull that I want to get as well. And we'll be doing both of those in our red, because I feel like that's classic, opposite color for any kind of cables you have. I'll do the main ones as silver, because I feel like that's a nice starting. And then anything we have extra, just to give it a little bit of variation, I like to do red. I'm sure there's like a proper guide to what sort of cable this is, but we're just gonna pretend it's some sort of fuel. Sounds good to me. And without getting horribly unfocused on the camera here, maybe. We're just going to do the very back of this. And I also got to be a little bit careful here. I don't want to ruin our silver on that ammo feeding coil, but I do want to get this whole fuel line red as well. You can see I already kind of started with the rest of it here. I was just kind of doing some touch-ups off camera, and I started with this, and then I realized that it was going to be kind of a pain instead of a quick little thing, so I decided I'll leave it for when we actually did our next part. But overall, as we kind of wrap up here, I think it's safe to say we're pretty much almost finished. I just need to do, one or two little touch-ups on what we just did. But other than that, we're looking pretty decent here. And just make sure we get full coverage on that, both front and back. Perfect. I think, just looking at them, I'm pretty comfortable with that. Again, some of the ribbons look a little bit janky. It's just very difficult to kind of tell where they end with this specific model. I don't know whether it's the glue that I used that kind of melted it a little bit. Maybe. I'm not sure how sloppy I was with it. But overall, other than that, he's looking pretty solid. I'm really liking him, and I'm really happy with it. So I think I'm going to go and end it here. The next episode, we are going to be doing Tyranids, and just to give you kind of a little showcase, these little guys, I think they're called Termagants. I have some of them already built and painted in my army, but I have a whole bunch of new paints that I want to try out with it. They're all Citadel brand, so you guys should be able to follow along if you are also doing Citadel stuff. But we'll save that for next time, so something to look forward to. And that'll kind of coincide with the release of Space Marine 2 coming in a few days. If you have the early access version, it comes out on actually like later today, being the 5th. So, that'll be something to look forward to. As always, if you guys enjoyed this, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me out a lot, and it helps me kind of gauge, whether you guys are enjoying this, and just the overall kind of feedback. Other than that, I also have a Patreon. The link is in the description, as always. And there's not really much else to say, but thank you guys very much for watching, and hopefully I will see you in the next episode.